Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Dark Power, where we talk about everything that happens on AEW Dark, AEW Elevation, and of course, NWA Powerrr. There's a lot to get to this week, so let's get started. Guys, thank you to Chris G. You guys see him on NX3, on Blunt Impact, Joints and Jabronis, for making that awesome intro. It is the official new intro for Dark Powerrr. I have a blast working on all of the theme music that you guys hear, and seeing that combined with the videos has been really, really great. And that's a great segue into reminding you guys to hit that like button, comment, share, subscribe if you have not already. It allows us to keep doing what we're doing and building out this content, building out the shows, adding different levels of different layers of complexity, and just having a blast talking about this thing that we enjoy, this thing that we love called wrestling with you guys. So shout out again to Chris for the intro video. I definitely appreciate it. Now, like I said, we got a lot to get to this week, so let's get straight into it. Let's talk about one of the things, the major thing that stood out to me from Elevation, and I guess for all three shows. And of course, I think you guys know where we're going with this. We are talking about the tag team match between the Dark Order's Evil Uno and Colt Cabana and 5 Allen Angels and Preston Vance. This was a pretty interesting tag team match. Both teams kind of evenly matched. They did to do a lot to shine a spotlight on Allen Angels and give him time to kind of be an MVP of the match. We know that the storyline really is between him and Evil Uno, so seeing them kind of go at it has been really nice, especially because they had that singles match last week. Now, we kind of see how Preston and Colt are not trying to get in the middle of everything that happens between Uno and Allen, and it kind of seems like this match is an extension of the singles match from last week. And I gotta say, the implosion of Dark Order has been something that's been pretty well done, whether it's been on Dynamite, Dark, or Elevation. I hope that they give a little bit of time to them on this week's episodes of Rampage and Dynamite. I know that with the Grand Slam show, things are incredibly stacked, and finding the time is going to be difficult. But I hope, even if it's just a backstage segment, they can do something like that to just keep the momentum going, especially because you can talk about what happened on Elevation, and that'll drive people to watch Elevation. Gives them another reason to check out the show, and hey, you get that YouTube money for AEW. Now, the finish of this match is pretty interesting. It involves Uno accidentally removing the mask of Allen Angels. Whether it was accidental or not, we don't know, but the mask comes off, and because of that, Angels has a fired up spirit. They do talk about on commentary how that mask was given to him specifically by Brody Lee. So, the mask is important to him. And Preston and Angels are able to pull out the win. After the match, guys, oh my goodness. This is the scene as Angels is trying to offer the handshake to Uno to help him up, but Uno decides to roll out of the ring and leave Dark Order in the ring. Whether he is officially leaving the group or not, we don't know. And I gotta say that this was one of the times where having somebody like Eddie Kingston on commentary really, really helped, because Eddie provided a perspective that, is difficult to have. And that's one of the problems with Elevation. And that's why I really like that they have Eddie Kingston on there now, is that both Tony Schiavone and Paul White, as good as they are face commentators. So it's difficult for them to give you that heelish perspective or kind of support heelish activities. Whereas Eddie Kingston is completely malleable. He can dance between being a face, a heel, do whatever it needs to be done in that moment. Here on Elevation, he does kind of work a little bit more heelishly as an announcer, which is perfectly fine. But he provides a perspective of you can only one person or only one team can be tag team champions. Only one person can be singles champion. Dark Order has to figure out that pecking order without Brody Lee around, and sometimes you got to fight each other to do that. But speaking of teams imploding or groups imploding, the other thing that stood out to me was definitely the Sonny Kiss Joey Janela match. This is a showdown between Kiss and Janela, and throughout the match, we're going to see some nice moments where Janela gets bloodied, as you can see right there. And this has been a storyline that's been going on back and forth between the two of them. We've seen most of this play out on Dark and Elevation, and that's been something that's been really, really nice. And we saw the debut of Now We Know Her Name, Kayla Rossi, on, I believe it was Elevation. I see. My thing is I don't remember because it was happening in the United Center when I was there for the Rampage taping. So I don't remember which show exactly, whether it was Dark or Elevation, but we saw her there. We saw her debut where she hit an unassisted powerbomb on Robert Anthony. That was pretty crazy. And here she makes her presence known, helping out Joey on the outside by hitting a wicked spear on Sonny Kiss. But Sonny is able to figure out a way to win this match. AEW does have a tendency to have baby faces win feuds, which is, it's fine. And it reinforces how important it is when a heel does win a feud. So that's always good. And right after the match, we have a moment where Rossi attacks Sonny Kiss from behind. And the only other thing that I want to add about this is the moment where and you guys can check it out. I wasn't able to clip off the video itself, but where they set up Sonny Kiss is lying face down. They set up a chair on her back, and this is probably the better angle for me to do it. A chair on her back, and from here, Rossi does like a standing backflip into a stomp onto the chair, and it's really well done. And the fact that she loses her footing and her balance and has to land on Sonny Kiss, it slides because obviously you're landing on a chair. At first I was like, I don't know if I like this, but then I rewatched it and I was like, man, no, it actually works because it is getting over that she's hitting her so hard that she herself is losing balance. I'll take it. And so those were the things that stood out from Elevation. Let's turn towards Dark. There wasn't as much that stood out to me on Dark, but there were some things that were really good. And let's start with this right here. This is the opening match where Wardlow is getting a quick win. And what I liked about it was just the fact that we are getting more action from Wardlow. We are seeing more singles matches. And that's really what we need for Wardlow. He needs to start getting wins under his belt as they slowly start to do the slow burn of him, which the slow burn has been slow for a while, but start to amp it up. The burn of him turning on MJF and either turning face, which is probably most likely, or continuing to be a heel and turning MJF face, which would be hard to believe. So I'm leaning towards them making Wardlow face. The next things that stood out to me were mainly tag matches. Interestingly enough, Santana and Ortiz taking on Serpentico and Luther from the Chaos Project. That was a good match as well. Get a chance to check that one out if you have not. They were all over the place on this one. Some nice action throughout the match. And I got to say, I like it when we're having contracted talent versus contracted talent. It's important. It's really, really important to do. It makes these shows feel more than, I guess, what they're supposed to be on paper. And the next match that stood out to me that I really, really liked was the other tag match. Well, not the other tag, but the other big tag match, which was between Stallion Rogers and Gray making their debut with former WWE of NXT, making their debut with AEW up against FTR. And this was just a fun match. I gotta say, I appreciate the fact that FTR had the time, that they were given the time to really lay out this match. It had a nice feel to it. FTR are really good hands in the ring. And one of the things I liked about this match was just that because you had the time, you could see some of the differences between some of the talent that AEW has. These are two people that they're up against, that FTR are up against, that were recently released by NXT or by WWE. And bringing them in for this one-off match is fine. And even if you're bringing them in to be Dark and Elevation regulars, that's fine too. But it's good to have them there because they are going to be able to help people and teach people. You can see some important differences between TV when it comes to TV readiness, when it comes to these guys versus some of the other more indie talent that is on Dark and Elevation. And I got to say that this was a really, really good match to kind of flesh out what Dark and Elevation could be. And oh man, this nice suplex on the outside was really good from FTR. Of course, FTR picking up the win, as we know they're going to do. And one other thing that I want to say is that Angels had a really good match, Allen 5, up against Daniel Garcia. That was a really good one. Get a chance to check that one out if you have the time. But speaking of time, we got to turn towards Powerrr. Now, this week's episode of Powerrr Surge, only a couple matches. We start off with Colby Corino taking on Marsh Rocket. It was a good match, nothing too crazy. No crazy storyline behind this match outside of the fact that the two of them just don't really like each other. The majority of this episode is going to be dominated by backstage or behind the scenes interviews. And first we have Jack Stane. Now, they're clearly setting up Jack Stane to be Trevor Murdoch's first challenger for the belt. And I like it. It's a nice... You want to try to work strength for strength. And Trevor Murdoch is somebody who I think works well against somebody of an equal size. That's not to say that he wouldn't do well against somebody of a smaller size, but if he's a face and he's a big guy, you don't want to put him necessarily up against a smaller heel guy, especially not at first. You want to be able to give him some statement wins, and they can do that with Jack Stane. So during the promo or during the interview segment, Jack Stane kind of recaps us through every problem that he's had with Crimson, why he did what he did with that slap fight, and the stare down with Trevor Murdoch. Nothing too crazy, but I will say that Jack Stane did feel comfortable as a heel. He came across as pretty convincing as a heel and as kind of this... It's difficult to pull off because he's trying to come across as a smarmy, not chicken shit so much as cocky heel. And he looks physically and dresses like somebody who should not be that kind of person whatsoever. But he did feel comfortable doing the interview. It felt that. You felt as though he wasn't really portraying a character in so much as that really was just Jack Stane sitting on a couch talking to us, which I really liked. Speaking of which, the next backstage interview that they had was with Camille. This one was a little bit weirder because it felt off just from the beginning because Jax was sitting in a couch or some kind of like lounge chair kind of thing in his living room, but there's nothing behind him. Whereas Camille was clearly in a kitchen of some sort. And it just felt off. That part of it just felt off because you're not when I picture my women's champion and I picture Camille, I don't think kitchen. That's not to say, the idea of, women should be in the kitchen or because of that. The flip side is that we should put women in the kitchen for shots because we're putting a lampshade over the treatment of women previously. No, it's just that with Camille, I just don't think that. For her, if they had been in a gym of some sort, or for her, if it had also been on some kind of lounge chair in her couch, it just felt like it would have made a lot more sense. But that's more of a nitpick, if anything. The interview was fine. She's basically running down that she has no issues beating the shit out of Melina, and she has no issues beating the shit out of anybody who's going to step to her. And she's ready for Mickie James. She's ready for Melina. She's ready for Sky Blue. She's ready for anybody who wants to come for that championship, whoever it may be. Speaking of Sky Blue, though, we do have another match to talk about, and that is a triple threat match between Sky Blue, Thunder Kitty, and Tootie Lynn. This, while it does look like in the screenshot that Sky Blue is smiling and is happy, I assure you she was in pain, because she is in there wrestling with a 100-year-old woman. Now, this match was not too bad at all. Sky Blue is going to pick up the win. Nothing too crazy here about the match. Just felt like a TV match for them to give us. And I want to see more about with Tootie Lynn, what they're going to do. I hope they do something, or they did something. It's a better way to put it, with the tapings that they had there. And I want to see, like, maybe some of the tapings in St. Louis will somehow culminate in a quick match for Tootie Lynn versus Camille, even if it's not for the title, just something to kind of give that hometown kid something great for her to hang her hat on. And finally, when it comes to our interview segments, we have Trevor Murdoch, who cuts a pretty good babyface promo. And he's basically just saying, I respect that Nick Aldis said what he said last week. It takes a big man to say that. Kind of the things you're expecting Trevor Murdoch to say to put Nick over for not being a complete shitbag after he lost the title. And then Trevor turns or pivots towards Jax Dane. And we know where this is going. It's more of the same, of just kind of saying, I don't know why Jax is doing this. I don't know why he thinks that he has to go through these steps to get what he wants. He has the title shot. Just cash the title shot in. Do what you got to do. And that's basically, I think, really all that needs to be said about that. Simple storylines sometimes are very, very good, and they work out very well. In our main event, we have Black G's taking on Mims. This was a pretty good main event, or a pretty good match. Nothing too crazy here. NWA this episode was kind of a paint by the numbers for the NWA, and I gotta say, nothing too wrong with it. I don't expect that much out of Power Surges, and for a good reason. They're supposed to be recap shows, so it's nice that we got a little bit of action and we got some storyline progression. That's something that's good. I want to see how they're going to take Nick Aldis forward, how they're going to move him forward, what's going to be the story for him. And I want to see that national title, Chris Adonis versus Jedias, what's going to happen there, especially because we know James Storm is being involved. Why, we're not 100% sure, but he is being involved. So let's see where they take us with that. Our TV title, that's far, far more of a mess. And I think that we should get a women's title match, women's tag title match soon. Because if I remember right, they told us that 2 weeks ago, they told us that last week we would get Marty Bell and Paola, and the week after we would get Allison Kay and Genocide. So it seems a little weird that we didn't get that, but maybe the concept of Power Surge just surges on them there or something to that effect and overrules things that they say on Power. But anyway, guys, that has been the recap for AEW Dark, Elevation, and Power for this week. Thank you guys for tuning in once again. Remember to hit that like button, comment, share, subscribe. You can catch me on Fusion of Honor with my co-host, three-time baby-making champ Ness, where we cover MLW Fusion and Ring of Honor. I don't think I'm going to be able to be, actually, I know I'm saying you can catch me there, but I think this week is going to be the first week where I gotta step away from that show for the week. There's some busy things happening with life. I do have people visiting me this week. Unfortunately, it's not as wrestling oriented as it was when Drunk Guy JJ was here for All Out, but we gotta keep pushing forward. So I will see you guys next week when it comes to talking about everything that happens on Dark, Elevation, and Power. Remember,